Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back to Hearthstone. So we don't have a ton of stuff in our daily quest to do. One of the things is to play pirates, but until we get this 5th tavern brawl done, there's really no reason to go for that. So theoretically, if I get one victory here as a rogue, and then I'll have my 5th tavern brawl and get that done, and then we'll be a little bit further. I'm really itching towards wanting a new expansion, and honestly, even though one hasn't been announced, it feels like it's been long enough that one could have been announced. A new expansion, particularly now that we have the copy and paste ability, is going to let me rebuild my decks completely. And let's see, I'm in no deck mode, but whatever. It's gonna let me just put in the best meta decks for the most part, and I can actually start to actually try and win and get higher. Plus, I will be able to open 50 packs and have a ton of extra gold, which is nice. A decent amount of news still. I'm very happy with the turn of events that happened. With after E3, it seems like there's actually a lot of work I need to still do. I need to buy the Humble Bundle, which is for E3, which I just want to go through it and make sure there aren't too many games extra that I would get in that, or there very well may not be any games extra in it. Let's see. And then there's several pages of things that I just want to go through and list and see all of the what's the proper way to say this? Several lists of games that were announced on E3 that I want to double check and go through just to make sure. There's also a lot of things that weren't at conferences but also were announced during the time or at E3. So there's a significant number of games. It's not just one or two, maybe 5 or 6, maybe even a dozen games that are at least seem noteworthy. What in the world did that do? Give all weapons in your hand in deck +1. Interesting. Deal 2 damage. So yeah, there's a lot of games I still want to look at. Also, it's worth mentioning that a lot of games that announce themselves on E3 that are PC games in particular. Like, I understand that if you're a PS4 exclusive and you don't have a Steam page, but there's a ton of PC games that were announced that don't have Steam pages. So during that time, when I look at a game and I can't find it on Steam, I just can't put it in the wish list or the follow list, which is the two options. And if that happens, then there's a significant chance I am not going to remember that game, like, when it comes out. It's just gonna fall by the wayside, or at the very least I'm not gonna be super hyped about it. Like, if I was a person who pre-ordered, which eventually for my channel I am probably gonna have to become a person that pre-orders, as much as I don't want to. I'm not gonna pre-order a game if it's not on Steam. Like, I'm not gonna buy a game if it's not on Steam in most cases. So the people that are choosing to not list on Steam are greatly hurting themselves. Let's just attack here. Destiny. Speaking of exclusives, Destiny 2's PS4 exclusives are going to come to PC in 2018, says Bungie's Luke Smith. So much for it really being an exclusive. It's just a console exclusive. There was a Penny Arcade comic, which I've kind of gotten back into looking at those. I'll probably fall right back out of it again, but if you're holding any non-rogue class cards, reduce this. I am... like, this is a... okay, this would reduce this card. Oh, so next time I'll play that, I guess. World of Warcraft's lead player versus player designer is moving to another Blizzard project, which doesn't really tell you anything other than somewhere out there, probably Diablo 3 or some unnamed project, has player versus player. Like, I would assume it's either Diablo or Heroes of the Storm or something like that. It would be a slightly odd shift to move it to, say, stole my guy. It'd be pretty unusual if you moved to Hearthstone, but who knows. Speaking of Steam, the Steam Summer Sale has been quote-unquote leaked, and trading cards have already been leaked. So I didn't get the actual date there, but it's coming pretty soon here. I think I probably already talked about Bethesda's Creation Club being paid mods 2.0. There was an article saying how since Bethesda has been profiting off of mods for decades now, that their Creation Club idea should be free. Like that, it was kind of a sleazy article, even in my opinion, because they were saying that they should both pay the creators and make all the mods free, which, you know, I mean, then you're just saying, well, Bethesda, you should just make free content. And in a lot of ways, maybe they should. They're not really supporting Skyrim as much as they should, and instead they're reselling it to you and charging you close to full price. There was a run of reports, or well, 3 reports, of very poor security at E3, particularly considering the state of the world these days. One streamer went missing. I don't even know if she was found. The problem with anything like that is it just is going to constantly get retweeted even after they're found. So, and at the beginning it might be fake news. So you just kind of don't know. Let's see. Am I going to be able to survive here?
Careful. Justice is mine.
This is...
That's not a valid target.
This is 2 plus 15 plus 1.
Justice is mine.
Yeah, I think I may have lost there. But I probably would have lost anyway, so let's just go ahead and end the turn. So yeah, a streamer went missing. Somebody was on Reddit talking about how they specifically snuck in as just a caterer through a small amount of work. and they almost got caught, but they still got in, and at least into the main part of E3, maybe not all of the conferences. So considering how E3 just for the first time was officially open to the public, they really didn't do a good job, it seems, to ensure the safety and security. Although, you know, this might be just a little bit of whining too, because with the exception of somebody going missing, we don't know of any real incidences, and there certainly have been some other incidences at PAX and other things where I think probably security at all conventions for all things probably need to be stepped up. Moving on, IO Interactive is now independent, so their parent company, which I think was Sony, no, not Sony, it was Square Enix, let them go, but the question is what is the real cost for them to let them go, because they had already fired people at IO Interactive, and I've heard no evidence that now that they're independent they're gonna bring back those people. Maybe those people, since we didn't know who they were, the numbers were just testers that they were gonna fire anyways. But then, even though IO Interactive is indie and they own Hitman, the question is, what is the background deal there? Are they gonna have to give a percentage of sales back to Square Enix? Did they have to pay an enormous amount of money? The core of this issue is that Square Enix was saying they weren't interested, or they weren't making enough profit on IO Interactive and Hitman. So now that IO Interactive and Hitman are independent, is that going to be, that statement has to be proven as a lie? Otherwise, what the next big announcement I'm gonna have to make is that IO Interactive just goes out of business and goes bankrupt, and then Square Enix comes back, and Square Enix or some other company may come back and just buy Hitman right back from them. Or it becomes a property of some other company, and that's not what we want. Ubisoft said the Vivendi fight of the hostile takeover by Vivendi will continue. As much as everybody hates Ubisoft, it's still worth pointing out that I'm pretty sure if Ubisoft was owned by Vivendi, it would be even worse. So that's my opinion on that. A Diablo 2 remaster has been hinted at by a Blizzard job posting. Almost certainly, you know, we're gonna get a remaster on everything. It's gonna happen. Beast. Apparently this one isn't a beast.
Justice is mine.
Xbox avatars have been remade in Unity, which is interesting that they would just remake it in a whole new engines. I already talked about, there was a lot of announcements that aren't on Steam. Metro Exodus is going to take the series above ground for a year-long post-apocalyptic Russian journey, which makes me kind of iffy about...
Today, I don't have to be a
that was
princess.
lucky.
Thank you.
I'm kind of iffy about playing the previous Metro games, and I'm not sure even Metro Exodus really caught my attention that much, but it's based on a book series, and if it's like Witcher 3, we probably should give it a try. I'm not sure. That's really one of those cases where I would wish somebody who has played all of the previous Metro games and read the books, and whose opinion I could at least moderately trust, would come in and give me that suggestion. Let's see, we'll go ahead and kill this one, and then this one, and then attack, and in the turn. What scares me the most about the previous Metro games is the idea that they'd all be set underground in basically a train station, and I think that's exactly the case. Like, I think that is 100% what it is.
Justice is mine.
And so you might very well have a game that's very dark and has very few varied environments, which doesn't sound that interesting, and you might not have that many varied enemies. I'm kind of thinking maybe giant cockroaches and monsters like you would have in Fallout 4, but in a dark, spooky cave the whole time. Not that I'm particularly afraid of dark, spooky caves, it's just that sounds boring. But if somebody did come back and say these are the Metro games worth playing, and all the stories really do connect, maybe. We kind of have a similar issue too with just Witcher. Like, if you really want to go play the old Witcher games, you're gonna get through some pretty bad gameplay, and a reboot probably wouldn't be a terrible idea. Let's go ahead and just play a ranked pirate game here, since it doesn't matter. The creator of Final Fantasy is going to announce a new game on June 22nd. His name is Hironobu Sakaguchi, and let's see, he's going to stream that on a Japanese stream on the 22nd, so I would probably recommend people who don't speak Japanese to just wait and see what that game is. He probably, if I was to guess, doesn't work for Square Enix anymore, and like, this is just pure speculation, but I bet he doesn't work for Square Enix. I bet he hasn't touched or made a Final Fantasy game since maybe the first one. So I don't think he's the guy that's making Final Fantasy 15. I think he's the guy that made Final Fantasy 1. So take that bit of speculation for whatever you would know. But in a weird way, even though being the creator of Final Fantasy is very prestigious and noteworthy, that is still not news. Just because of the fact that you can't announce an announcement and expect it to actually have any substance, regardless. But, moving on, since that really wasn't not news, the director of Code Vein says that it won't break the player's spirit, which is good. I might argue back that he doesn't know how weak some players' spirits might be, but at the very least it's starting on the right foot by saying this isn't going to be a incredibly difficult, even more difficult Dark Souls game. Or even if it is difficult, it's going to have some helps and assists in it. In a lot of ways, that's nice to know, because I only got like halfway through maybe one Dark Souls game, and I really doubt I'd ever want to play any of them without some kind of mod that just make things easier. Like, honestly, I just want an invincibility mod. Just don't let me die. Keep me healed up. So, like, maybe Code Vein will be the Dark Souls for me. I hadn't thought of that, but it's a possibility.
Trust the pirate's code.
Let's see, we'll play that and that. And then we'll attack here. And then we'll attack here. And then this. Telltale has teased that it might have a new IP in development. And that would be its first new IP since Puzzle Agent. Plus, they also said they're working for support for new platforms, which, no duh, they want to get their games on as many platforms as possible, and there's really no reason why it wouldn't work on everything, considering there's it's such a simplistic engine by today's standards. Darn it. So there's definitely some weirdness though with the idea of doing a new IP with Telltale, because when you look at what Telltale's new IPs have been, it's been their original games, which is Telltale Poker, and then A Night at the Roxbury Telltale Pokers that they made a long time ago. They did the Bone games, they did Puzzle Agent, they did, I guess they can't claim Sam & Max as a new IP, really. So, like, there's really need one more that costs 5 or more, which means I could probably play just anything. But let's see if we can find something. Is this one called Mech 3-5 Attack? Let's try this. Probably haven't played that deck in a long time. Yeah, they haven't had a very good success record with new IPs. But it's been a very long time too, and I would like to see them do some new IPs and actually own some of their stuff. In general, I'd just like to see Telltale slow down. They've either got to slow down and release less games and make less money, which they certainly wouldn't want to do, or they've got to grow bigger and become unmanageable, more than likely. Like, that's how it has to go. Like, oh, I guess I could have played that and that. Oh well. But they need to rebuild their engine. Maybe if they rebuilt their engine on a new IP, then they could reduce their risk a little bit. I don't know. Like, I don't know how you would do that. Or, anyways, moving on. Monster Hunter World is 30 frames per second on consoles, maybe more frames on PC. I think for a game like that, being only 30 frames per second is going to be a problem for a lot of people. Like, that, since the game is about hunting monsters and it's supposed to be this fast-paced action thing, targeting 30 frames out of the box on consoles is not going to be great. But I guess in the real way, they're probably targeting the Nintendo Switch, which arguably probably can't do 60 frames per second just because the hardware is too weak. Pikmin 4 is still progressing, so yay, Pikmin it's Pikmin, not Pikmin.
So many possibilities.
So that is good to know, I suppose. Good to hear they're still making games that we expected them to go. We already talked about a lot of games were missed and not mentioned. One of which is this game called Extinction, for example, that is going to be is kind of a ripoff of, what is that? That anime with the giants that are naked. I've forgotten the name of that. Attack on Titan. That's the name of it. Yeah, it looks like it's a ripoff of Attack on Titan, which I guess we are right in line for the quick ripoffs of Attack on Titan, considering it came out a year or two ago, and the manga very possibly came out a while ago. Yakuza and Persona are on the list of potential Sega PC ports, which, you know, they've got to fix the problem about them not wanting to allow people to stream Persona before I could stream it. But otherwise, I would like to go back and do some of those Persona games and the Yakuza games too, although the Yakuza games are a little weirder. Let's go and play this.
Job done.
Next spell I cast. Far Cry and Assassin's Creed are dumping the minimap, which is certainly not going to help me. The idea there is Zelda Breath of the Wild dumped the minimap, so like, what am I trying to say here? Yeah, that's going to be a hassle, though. Maybe not in Assassin's Creed, because maybe the area in Assassin's Creed is going to be a little bit smaller and more distinct. But I really can't imagine that the Montana in Far Cry 5 is going to be full of distinct and easily to recognize landmarks in a way that you can ensure there's no trouble there. The Yahoo Esports division is winding down as part of its merger with AOL. AOL being owned by Verizon. AOL used to be owned by Time Warner. I'm almost out of news here, which is good because I'm almost out of quests too. The Level 5, the creators of the Professor Layton games, are trying to get their game to work on Switch. However, since that game is a full touchscreen game, there's a problem. And this inherently goes to the overall problem. I know I'm saying inherently a lot like I used to, and I thought I kind of broken out of that. But it brings about this issue of any game that works on a touchscreen, in theory, should work on the Switch. But it doesn't, because as soon as you dock that game on the Switch, you don't have a touchscreen anymore. Which means there needs to be some kind of secondary accessory that Nintendo's going to have to sell. And that doesn't really work. That's certainly not going to make... it's not going to make people, parents happy. Or you're going to have to do something else. You're going to have to maybe slow down or pause the game and just have a dedicated button to go pause, mouse mode, bring up a mouse cursor, click on there. And that's not going to work in a lot of touchscreen games, so it's going to hurt the gameplay feature. Or you probably just eventually Nintendo's going to say, look, we're going to allow certain we're going to allow games to decide if they want to support docked mode or not. And if they don't want to support docked mode, that's fine by us.
Job's done.
Oh, it's not super video game related, but Oats Studio Volume 1 is now on Steam Video, which I think Oats Studio is this weird experimental videos made by a guy who used to work in the video game industry. So I'm gonna check that out eventually, although I doubt I'm gonna watch it on Steam since I'll just watch it on YouTube. And then an interesting story of just how abandoned abandonware can be. The Scum VM emulator team has been looking for a copy of a game for over a year to try to use it to improve their emulator so it will actually work. The name of the game is called High Res Adventures No. 3, The Cranston Manor, and they cannot find it anywhere. I don't know how much they're asking people to contact them if you have a copy of it. So we've hit a level. A lot of games were very popular, and there's copies of it all over the place on abandonware software. But a lot of the ones that Scum VM is now trying to get their emulator to run on are the less than known ones, because they've already done the known ones. And that finishes all my news, so now I guess I can just erase my whiteboard. Now, how should I do this with the other accounts? Like, I suppose what's gonna happen is if somebody was on the European accounts, or if somebody was on the Asian accounts, and they wanted to friend or play me, they're gonna have to comment, and so I'd say comment right now and bring my attention to it. Because it's not really worth my time to go look at the piling up daily quests or go do the daily quests on those accounts, even though I would like to get those done. It's not worth my time trying to do that in ranked or casual play. It's just too much work, and I would much prefer to simply move on to whatever else I'm recording, which, because I'm always falling behind on those things anyways. So, for instance, today I'm gonna go back and play LA Noire, and it's hard to play LA Noire for a while. I'm doing such a terrible job on it. I'm just bungled through an entire investigation, and it seems like there's really no way to lose. And no way to make the story just not happen, as long as you can find the clues to get conversations to happen. But you may not even need to find any clues. It may very possibly be able that you can do cases in LA Noire with having found 0 clues and just talking to people and then doubting or lying or thinking they're lying or thinking that they're telling the truth and just get it all wrong. Let's see. Is this going to be the only mech? Nope. So we'll play this. And we'll kill this. And duplicate. And there's so much GTA stuff that's topped onto LA Noire, and it's just shouldn't be there. The way I look at LA Noire, it should be like a Telltale game, with probably more focus around finding evidence to disprove things. Contradiction might be a very good example of what LA Noire is supposed to be, should be. instead of having this facial scanned mocap of real people's faces and looking at them and trying to determine if you think they're lying because of that. And if you think they're lying but have no evidence and didn't find the clues, you have to doubt. But if you were supposed to find a clue and you didn't, then I think you still have to, well, I guess at that point you might not be able to succeed at all. If, like, I don't even understand how the system works, because on the face of it, the way that it's explained, it says doubt if you don't have any clues. So if I played the game in case in LNR and intentionally picked up no clues whatsoever, which I don't think the game would let me do that, but maybe. If it did allow something like that, then I could just doubt every single time and I would be right. But sometimes I don't think the game would actually let that happen. It's a weird game. Speaking of slightly weird games, I finished Guacamelee Turbo Championship Edition. Kind of regret not just playing the Gold Edition, which is the easier version first. Like, particularly since I was playing single player. If I was playing 2 players or 4 players, well, to play 4 players, you would have had to have done the Turbo Edition. Let's see. Just need to hurry up now since we're done. Desperately trying to get ahead on videos. Are we done yet? Come on, use your hero power and win. So how long did we stream here? This is going to be an issue. We're about 9 minutes short of the time for a second 45-minute episode. I hadn't considered this as a possibility, honestly. Like, I see no reason to vamp, as they called in the business, and just keep playing and keep talking. But yeah, there's going to be some inconsistency going forward, and we kind of already knew that, but I thought the inconsistency was going to be the other way around. I didn't think it was going to turn out that sometimes we are just going to be short on the second episode or the last episode of recordings. Anyways, we got the daily quest done for the important account. Let's see, we didn't get any cards or anything, so we don't have any dust to make. I didn't do the best of jobs curating the quests. I turned down a 50 and it became a 40, and I shouldn't have done that. But, oh well. That's going to be it for the stream. I'm pretty sure nobody watched it live. I'll check again on YouTube, but what can I say? Just bad timing. Bad timing on my part for not being able to wake up earlier. Bad timing being on a Saturday. When I have, or if I ever get a ton more subscribers instead of about 150, we'll see it grow. We'll see all the numbers grow, hopefully. That's it for this recording and stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.